Welcome to the Built World Around You, the podcast where we explore the people, ideas, and innovations shaping residential and commercial construction, as well as all the industries connected to it. Each week, we sit down with thought leaders, rising stars, and real problem solvers tackling today's toughest challenges. From job site breakthroughs to boardroom strategies, we're here to share the lessons, the struggles, and the success stories that are a part of tomorrow's world being built right now. So grab your hard hat, sharpen your pencil, and let's get to work. Welcome back to another episode of the Built World Around You. I'm your host, Bobby Thompson, president of the Thompson Group Ventures. Today we have Jamie Fraser on the show, and I can't wait to get him on stage talking with you all. He's had a storied career working for a couple of other builders. We share some of the same lineage, and it's phenomenal to see what he's doing in the market today with H&H Rock. Can't wait for you all to have a conversation with him and listen to what he has to say. So without further ado, Jamie.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well, brother. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time and recording an episode with us. Looking forward to getting into some deeper details and sharing with the folks what they might not know.
That sounds great.
So for those that are tuning in, we're averaging right around 15,000 impressions per month on our content. Would love for you to introduce yourself, tell them who you are and what do you do.
Sure. So my name's Jamie Fraser. I am a land developer. My background is civil engineering. I went to Bucknell, and then I got an MBA from the University of Texas. Been doing land development related work pretty much my entire career. So that's probably 97 until now. So that's working towards 30 years, I guess. And have been kind of on all sides of land development. I've done land acquisition, design for, as a land development engineer, and, kind of touch all pieces. My current role is VP of Development at H&H Rock Companies, which is an extremely small company. We do not promote ourselves. We do not have much of a social media presence, any. But you and I've gotten to know each other through MBIA. I just think there's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of explore ideas and talk about some things and share some thoughts.
I appreciate that. And I agree wholeheartedly. One of the benefits of the Maryland Building Industry Association is it puts a lot of like-minded individuals together for the greater good, right? Yep. And so you and I have been in several of the same rooms trying to figure out specifically, how do we attack, the land scarcity in Maryland right now? Like, what are some of the things that we could do to collaborate, partner, and use our connections to move deals forward? What are your thoughts on some of the headwinds that we have when it comes to land and land scarcity here in Maryland?
So I think it's kind of a two-part answer. There's the availability of undeveloped land, and that is kind of it's a different story as you get further away from metropolitan areas. So I'd say there's a fair amount of land like in Cecil County and further out, whereas in Howard County, I think there was a study, less than 2% of the land in Howard County is still developable. So there's that issue, there's really not much opportunity in the core areas, and we're pushing out. So there's that. And then the other issue is the development pipeline, how long it takes to get through permitting. I've got a project that we're not done with now, but we're starting the final phase But it took 9 years. 9 years, right?
That's not long at all. 9 years? Wow.
No, no, and in this business, at some point, you got to buy the land or put the money in, right? You can't you can't tie something up for that long, and 9 years basically makes it unprofitable, right? You can't carry land that long, and so but 9 years is unfortunately that's a little bit on the extreme side. But when I joined this company that I'm in now, we used to talk about 18 months as sort of your standard pipeline when we're buying land or sitting, talking to a seller. We're looking for 18 months plus maybe a 6-month extension before we close. It's laughable to think anything in any county is 18 months anymore, right? It's 4
Right.
years, 5 years now. And the problem, as I see it, is it's a combination of regulation, but it's also motivation, right? You just don't see, upper management in the counties overruling sort of activists type reviewers, right? So you're inevitably going to run into a problem that is intractable. You can't solve it because it conflicts with another code, or you can't solve it, right? And there has to be some rationality, right? Because these codes get written, and then you run into a situation, right? We're willing to solve any problem, but sometimes you can't, right? You just can't
Right.
do it. And so, but that stops the projects now. That kind of situation, right? You have a reviewer who won't be reasonable about what the intent is, right? And just won't budge. And then you have, whatever is causing it to be an impossible solution on the other side, and they won't budge. And you end up 9 years later having to change laws, right? Because, in the case of the 9-year project, I had 2 pieces of state legislation approved, and both of them did nothing but interpret the in my opinion irrational interpretation that a reviewer had decided to have because they were trying to be more activist, right?
Hmm.
And so it's that kind of a situation. So it's 2 parts again. It's the availability. There's just not much left in the core areas, and then it's time frame.
No, I appreciate that insight. I will tell you that leading up to this legislative session this year, there are talks about regulatory certainty, right? And what those costs that are being paid out and billed to developers and builders, and the shifting sands or shifting tides that do impact the process, and how long is reasonable amount of time from the county or jurisdiction standpoint for it to remain the same for a prolonged period of time. There's a heavy advocacy lift that's happening, as you know, with the MBIA partnering and having conversations with stakeholders like the Maryland Association of Counties. Don Butchko actually recorded an episode for this very podcast speaking to a lot of the collaborative efforts. And we
Mhm.
have DHCD folks that are going to be on as well. So we're working towards this, I think, as a state, trying to get some certainty, but you hit the nail right on the head. Nothing is worse than having an uncertain uh, return on investment for capital employed that
Yeah.
changes the laws midstream during the process. That's the worst case scenario for sure.
I'll give you if it weren't so sad, it would be funny. Had a project in Howard County. They changed their oversight of forest conservation midway through. So we bought the project, and we had done a forest survey or inventory, and the definition of a specimen tree is 30-inch diameter at chest height, right? And The laws changed. They didn't change the definition, but what they changed was the oversight and inspection period. So we did nothing wrong. We got it done, measured a bunch of trees, had a whole bunch of them that were 29 inches. By the time they went and inspected them, 70 trees on this property, right? It was just the age where they went from that size. 70 trees became specimen trees, and we had to redesign the project completely. I mean, from the start. And it was because it took 4 years, right, to get to that point where somebody was actually inspecting it. And if they inspected it sooner, they wouldn't be 30 inches, right? I mean, it's a growing tree.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's, whew.
Yeah,
I can
crazy.
only imagine the lift that had to take to get that. Is that so? Just kind of pulling that thread a little further. How did that project fare with the redesign? Is it?
We were the first project under the new, Forest Con regulations, and so we were the guinea pig, and it was a huge lift to work around the trees, and in every single case, give a alternative compliance explanation specific to that tree.
Yeah.
I mean, it took months, many tens of thousands of dollars of engineering time, and we got through it, and we were able to keep the same density and make it all work. But we ended up with much smaller homes on the project. They're 1 acre lots, and we ended up basically telling the builder, you can only do this, and if you want to bump out, it has to be here, right? And that's that's challenging. So it worked out, but it's just an example, right? Time kills deals, and there's a lot of things that cost time. Another thing that I would mention is the interagency coordination of review. That's it probably sounded like there's no problems that you can't solve. Well, there are, when you have different agencies that have different motivation, right? So if your MDE is motivated by a certain definition, and the county is motivated by a certain definition, and they're not exactly aligned, right? When those rules got written, nobody ever contemplated that they might be in conflict. But then you get into this one situation that I was in on the 9-year project, and it was impossible to resolve those two, right? And then so that's it's the interagency coordination with state. You've got health department in Howard County is a state agency that doesn't report to the county executive. So there's that. It's that where there's not one person that can say, this is how we should resolve it, right?
Yeah. And I like that you're shining a light on the potential friction in motivation and guidelines when they're not in sync. What that creates from a time, we'll call it delay, right? And that time equates to money, and that money equates to the lack of attainability, because it all rolls up into the overall cost of the project. So talk me through, if you could, that 9-year project, right? A lot of that is built in because there was friction points, shifting sands, shifting legislation. Do you see, as an average, some of those same telltale signs in normal day-to-day, or is that a one-off unique scenario with the 9-year project?
So the 9-year project was unique because the county had a bad experience with another project about 10, 12 years ago. It was well publicized. It was an absolute mess. And pretty much everybody involved said, we're never going to have this again. Right. And so they passed a bunch of laws that were intended to never have that situation again. But I'm not that bad. I'm different, right? I honestly believe that, the problems can be solved, and we can avoid that problem and still move forward. And so we had a combination of things that were allowed and things that the rules said you couldn't, and so we just had to figure that out and navigate it and correlate it. And the end result of that, we just had the Home Builder Land Development Awards, and I'm proud to say that that particular project just got an award of excellence.
That's right.
And I'll also very happy to say that there's 3 or 4 projects that are following the path that we sort of set out. And to date, everything is working perfectly, right? Exactly as designed, exactly as intended. But the complexity was, I mean, it was so complex trying to get through the different regulations. Your question was about whether that was a one-off. The timeline on that, because it had so much issues with the other project in the past that we had to overcome, that was a little bit longer and had a little bit more friction. I do see, though, the state agency and county agency, and the weird blend where there's state employees that work in the county but they don't report to the county executive. I do see that being a real friction point in multiple jurisdictions, right? So I got a project in Baltimore County where I'm trying to coordinate with State Highway to get an access permit and coordinate with the county on phasing, and it's just really difficult to be efficient and get the project done. I got one in Cecil County where the design is relatively simple, but complying with SCD's regulations adds a layer of complexity to the plan review. Now, I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong, but it's just, right? Nobody did anything wrong, but it's just this sort of multi-jurisdictional review process gets extremely long when got to have everything done to get to the finish line.
No, that's absolutely a fair assessment. Small pivot for you.
Sure.
Because we're talking through these legacy deals and these deals that take multi-year efforts to get done. Curious, you've worked in several roles across a few companies over the years of your career. What are you seeing from this market that is driving some of the land shifts, right? So there are land shifts that are happening. People are focusing in Prince George's County for a while, and now you had mentioned Cecil being an opportunity zone. Southern Maryland is also an opportunity zone in the southern counties. And so what is driving that shift? Do you feel that that's friction from we'll call it not in my backyard type policies, or what's driving that narrative that everyone's looking for newer places?
Well, ultimately the driver is demand for housing, right? We don't have enough housing in the state of Maryland. And then in terms of shifting focus, I think the biggest shift that I've seen in the last 10 or so years was about 5 years ago. Almost everybody I know in Maryland also had projects in North Carolina, right? Because they would all come back and say, I could get through the development approval process in 3 months, right?
Right.
And start building. It's just a very different financial proposition, right? And it's a much better one, right? When you're at risk the entire time, it's rough. And so Maryland is really, really rough to be a developer in. In terms of land availability, is definitely going to shift your where you're looking for land. So there's that. That's kind of what brought us up into Cecil County. I personally think Cecil County is a great place to develop because you've got jobs coming, right? You've got warehouse, you've got the 95 corridor. At least my project is extremely close to Wilmington, Delaware, right? So it's a different. So I really think that one, but we're not prone to going too far out because in recessions, the demand for
Yeah.
housing real far out dries up fast, right? And so it adds a layer of risk that is predictable, right? And when your timeline is years, right? You have it's pretty scary to go into
It's
to
very
go too
scary.
much further out where the demand might dry up.
No, that's fair, and you're right. That is very scary. There's kind of an impending doom, that gray area in this building industry that we work in. That composite risk factor,
Hmm.
of uncontrollable things. So, when you think of your career,
Sure.
right? Who's someone in your career that's made the biggest impact on your career, and what do they do?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I would say, hmm. So the career path that I'm in now
Mhm.
has nothing to do with my current partner and boss, Mark Levy. So I wouldn't say that he influenced how I got here, but I have learned a lot, and he's been very influential in. I mean, he's just got another 20 years experience from what I do, and I'm learning a lot from him. So he's very influential. But at the same time, I think there's a mutual influence. I'm a
Mm.
very different kind of personality type and a very different background from his. And so, most people that know both of us see that is very complementary, right?
Yeah.
There's some ways to solve it that work better his way, and some ways to solve it that work better my way. And we know that we're different, but we're trying to get to the same place. And so that's been a great opportunity. And I would say that he's a very large influence. So
Awesome.
there's certainly other people that have, I've aspired to be like, but that's one.
Right on. And it's no slight to anyone. So shout out to everyone that normally listens to the show, right? And I ask this question here and then, or here and now and then, with different guests that are on the show, and it's interesting for the listeners. I get feedback on our episodes that they get greater insights, not just in the building industry, but also in other industries and other career paths. So it's always good to talk about leaders that are leading and influencing. Uh, when you think of your sphere of influence, Jamie, uh, do you see some rising stars coming up in the industry? And what are their differentiators from the pack? What differentiates them to make them a rising star in your eyes?
Um, yeah, sure. One thing that I always, you know, I recognize, and Bobby, part of the reason I'm on the podcast is I would probably put you in that group. And I mean, I
Thank
told
you.
you as much when we rub elbows in meetings, but don't know each other very well. But there's what it takes in this industry is good communication, good follow through, and good vision, right?
Mm,
And if you don't have all those three, you're going to falter. And you can see that in somebody in meetings, right? You go to successive meetings, and they're going to talk, they're going to get it done, and then they're going to be ready to do the next thing. And yeah, I've got two kids, and they're both in college and kind of looking. And I just telling my daughter that leadership is not about being out in front and being vocal. It's about
mm,
enabling everybody that you're trying to lead to be more successful in the thing, and giving them what they need to make that happen. Right. I'm paraphrasing from a speech at the Good Scout breakfast a couple of weeks ago. So that's not mine, but it resonated with me as the idea, because a lot of people think of leadership as the one that's responsible or that's out in front and pushing, and there's different leadership styles, and the reality is whoever is most successful in getting a group to get things done is the best leader, right?
Right. Right. At the end of the day, right, to accomplish the intended goal,
Right.
or achieve the intended goal, I absolutely agree with you there. Servant leadership, providing opportunities for people to succeed and then supporting them, empowering and uh, equipping them to be able to succeed absolutely resonates on the leadership front. And
Right.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. If you could impart one nugget, one blueprint for those that are watching and listening across the nation, what would it be?
Um, Stay curious, and that's. I had a moment to sort of reflect after you asked me my greatest influence, and that's actually what I would want to say is the greatest influence in my career so far has just been curiosity. And so, I started as a design engineer in a land development company, Dewberry and Davis in Fairfax. And, it took me a number of years to learn how to do that and to do it well. But I was sitting, at some point I was sitting at the table and I'm the engineer and I was looking across the table and I was just so curious. How is this guy on the other side of the table making these decisions? Like he's saying it with confidence. He knows the right answer, and I don't even know where to begin. Right? Right. I mean, I can solve the engineering problem, but I don't know why he's making those decisions. So, so then I went back and I got an MBA. Um, and interesting, as a civil engineer, spent 2 years doing real estate finance, and the career that I had chosen up to that point was a rounding error, right? It didn't even matter in the pro forma. I mean, seriously, profitability, could have been 5 or whatever percent, or 10 or whatever it was and the civil engineering budget in it was 1, right? So, I mean, it was a rounding error, and that was my whole world up until I went to business school, right?
Right.
So I did that, and I went into sort of transition out of design into owner's rep project management, right? Uh, and then I was meeting with the same table that I used to with the engineers, but then I'd go and I'd meet with the owner, right? And I got to a point of how do they know all these answers with so much confidence, right? I mean, what is really behind it? And so I continued. I did land acquisition for a period of time, and I decided that I really want to be on the owner side, actually on the owner side, because it's really about the time value of money and
That's right.
how much money is at risk and those things. And so I just stayed curious and pursued each step. And at this point now I'm on the owner side, but I've got a little bit of experience all the way through, which is invaluable to you know to making it all work, right? So and in today's world, if this is a matter of advice for somebody,
Mhm.
we're going to be working a long time, right? The what makes you valuable is not going to necessarily be what you learn in college, right? It's not. I mean, it really isn't. I came out of college, and my first month I was completely useless. I mean, I'd learned a lot of theory, but I couldn't write a memo, right? I didn't even
Right.
know how to write a memo, right? I couldn't. There were just things that uh, you got to learn on the job. And the thing is, you should. I think people should anticipate that they're going to transition in careers. So put a bow on everything you do it really, really well. But be prepared to keep learning all the way through.
I love that. Stay curious and keep learning.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, Jamie, I appreciate your time. and you sharing your words of wisdom and your nuggets of information with the viewers and the listeners out there. Look forward to hanging out with you again here soon
Yeah,
at an
absolutely.
association function.
All right. I'm
All
sorry.
right.
Was that a question?
No,
At the end?
I look forward to seeing you at
Oh,
an
yeah.
association function.
Absolutely. I definitely will see you there.
All right, brother. I will
All
talk
right.
to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, folks. So you heard it here. Stay curious and keep learning. It's one of those things that I think that everyone can get 1% better every day, and putting that effort in for professional and personal development is a keystone to being successful, right? And so thank you all for listening and tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you in the built world around you. Thank you for listening to the Built World Around You. If today's conversation gave you new insights or sparked fresh ideas, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. It helps more builders, leaders, and innovators join the conversation. Until next time, keep building smarter, leading stronger, and shaping the world around you.